CFT, Cornerstone Focus Therapy, your rock solid foundation for building relationships, for your emotional well-being, for psychological as well as spiritual solutions. I go by the name Etienne Becker, and I am your host, counselor, psychotherapist, and spiritual consultant. And in this video, as you can see from the title, we're looking at relationship patterns from your onset. And this is where you are birthed, and some of the patterns that you end up into. Okay, right, so let's kick this off, and I want us to look at patterns, relationship patterns. What are you going to expect in the therapy session? The first thing that you will expect is to deal with relationship patterns. I'm talking about default patterns. I'm talking about the unseen patterns that we end up in. And we ask ourselves, why am I in this situation? Why do I meet this kind of people? So this is something that I'm going to give examples. The first example I want to give is an example of a program that I watched some time back. It is about couples that come together and bring each other to book. And what do I mean by that? So you will find a lady calling her ex and coming to talk about some of the things that they never really got to resolve. And I do happen to watch a video where this guy was dating this girl. They were both young at the time. They have a daughter, and the daughter is now grown up, and she feels like the man was not in her life as much as he wanted to be. And one of the issues she brought up was the fact that the man had other children, and some of the kids were 8 months difference. So she gave birth, and after like 8 months, within a year, 2 kids being born. Forget, it's not even funny. But you have I think that's a bit deep, sorry. You have a child being born by one woman in January, and then August, 8 months after, another child is being born by another woman. That's deep. And the man actually talked about how long time ago, his parents, years, they would have lots of children, and he did not see anything wrong with it. And I want to use that as an example of a pattern where you find a guy has certain behaviors, but they are actually their way of relating, because that's what they learned from their primary caregivers. That is a pattern. And that is a pattern that needs to be looked at when you come, and we will be dealing with relationship patterns. Remember, Cornerstone Focused Therapy is a rock solid foundation for building relationships. So in order to build a relationship, like a sound relationship between two people, it is important to look at the underlying issues that is causing one to behave the way they are behaving. So we are going to be looking at that, and that's just an example. Another example could be you're dating somebody with different, with either with children. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but you can find yourself like second best. One of your parents entered into a relationship, and they were like the second woman, and you find yourself dating men who've got a woman, and then you're becoming like the second woman. Those are patterns. You find some people only have one child. It's just them, and they'll kind of just also want to enter into a relationship and only have one child. Patterns. Relationship patterns are things that happen to us when we are being born, and we follow a certain pattern, and it is a spiritual thing. That's why we look at it spiritually when you come and deal with it. Okay, so this is what to expect when you come to look at therapy with Cornerstone Focus Therapy. And the purpose will be to break those patterns. As a psychotherapist, a counselor, an integrated counselor, I've talked about theories that I use: psychodynamic, person-centered, and Gestalt. I believe I've got skills that will help you better your life. I've got skills that will change your emotional well-being. Remember, your emotional well-being is just as important as physical well-being. So much as you take care of your physical well-being, it is important to look after your spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being. Okay, this is why I've shared this video, because I know that the fundamental thing, even when God creates us, is how we relate. And it's kind of like resetting and going back to the original of how God intended us to be. That's if you believe there's a God that is there and has created us, and that has created you, and that you have your own unique person that has been created specifically for you. And the reason why we are going to be doing this is to ensure that you don't get into a certain pattern that has happened, before our parents and going back to our generation. So these are things that we need to look at. These are things that you need to look at. These are things that I have looked at in my life, and I have been successful in dealing with them and finding myself in a very, content position. It's not easy. It's not easy to get into a relationship where you will not have issues. And majority of these issues are because we are coming from a certain pattern. And unless we deal with those patterns, the patterns will dictate to us. Remember, a tree is supported by the roots. It is the roots. What you don't see, you look at a tree. There are trees behind me. There's a tree behind me over there, right? That tree is supported by a root. And that root is what we are looking at. And that is what we are looking to correct. That is the root that we are looking to correct. It pains me and it hurts me when I see men and women growing old and they're being alone. And I know that I can help. I know I've been graced with an ability to help people work on these issues. And this is why I believe it is important for you to get in touch. If you feel like you've reached your end, if you feel like your back is against the wall, if you feel like you have nowhere else to turn, you have come to the right place. You are watching the right video. And I believe when you get in touch, as long as you're serious, as long as you're ready and prepared to book sessions and pay the price, and it will cost, this is something that will be dealt with. And I want to say something else about relationships, because I couldn't put any figure amount that can be too much, knowing that I'm working to go and find my person, you know. So listen, I know what I'm talking about. I know, you know, things that you'll be facing and things that you've gone through. And I know how deep it hurts. I know how confusing it gets. I know how painful it gets. I know how lost one feels. I know how empty it feels not to be able to be settled in a relationship. It's a deep thing. Secret tears. You will shed secret tears. And life is without joy until this issue is sorted. So this is Cornerstone Focus Therapy, your rock solid foundation for building relationships, and this is what you're going to be expecting to deal with when you come for a session, when you book for a block of sessions, you know. And we are going to look at relationship patterns, going back to your onset, to your birthing, and deal with that. So I've shot this video just in order to let you know what to expect when you book sessions, and I hope I've made this as clear as I can. And if you feel that it is time for you to make a change, if you feel that it is time for you to do something different, remember, insanity, being mental, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. If you sit there and keep doing the same thing that you have done to get into one relationship, do the same thing to get into another relationship, do another thing, the same thing to get into another relationship, you find yourself in the same pattern. You try and expect a different result, but that result, you're not getting it. Why? Because there's a relationship, you know, pattern that you have. It is a default that needs to be looked at and be corrected. So I'm gonna stop there. If you have liked this video, click that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe for other videos that will be coming up to get that notification. And if not, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.